Hello and welcome. So today's topic is change your diet and change your life. So I've gone through a whole bunch of different diet and protocols and things, and I'm gonna lay them all out for you. But first, I'm gonna start with why you want to change your diet. So what goes into your body directly affects what comes out and what actions you can provide and your experience as a person. And as much as I do believe that, I am terrible at following some of my own advice. I will tell you the good things, the bad things, what not to do things, and some of the things that I keep doing that are stumbling blocks for me. Because as you can probably see, I still have yeast infections under my eyes, which is not an indicator of perfectly good health, but that's because I'm not following some of my own advice. So when I first, I've never been diagnosed with whatever is wrong with me, but I will probably say it's an autoimmune disease. And I'm not going to get into the whole situation story, but there's a whole bunch of digestive things that led to me not processing food and having a dysbiotic gut, and there's a whole bunch of different little things. And I don't know if I should just say the American diet is to blame, or if I actually have something genetically wrong with me. So there's that. I've limped through life without a diagnosis, keep going bouncing from doctors to doctors. But uh, one thing I will say is when it got to a point where I was eating food and immediately pooping it out of my body, and I was just not being able to absorb any nutrients. So what I did, it was very drastic and very dramatic, and it was very hard. But I went on an autoimmune protocol inspired diet that was also more paleo in nature. I will write this out for you. Here, check it out in the description below, and I'll put it in the chat right now. Auto, autoimmune protocol diet, and then paleo, PALEO. Those are two diets you can get on if you're ready to make some big changes in your life and you have some dietary issues that really need to be addressed. Or I mean, not necessarily dietary, but just things in your life that you've been doing. You're like, I just feel sick, or I feel tired. I have something wrong going on with me. So check out some of those diet suggestions if you have problems. What I learned from those, strangely enough, is I have a few very odd allergies, some of which are eggs, all nuts except pecans, butternut squash of all things, apples. There's just like a couple odd little things that I can't eat that really help make my life better. And strange enough, gluten was not one of them. But that is the first thing that everyone always suggests is cut out gluten. So if you can try cutting out gluten and dairy, those are two things you can jump into right now. And to try to improve your life if you're having some health problems. Other things you can do if you're ready for the big deep plunge. It takes a lot of commitment to this, but you can cut out all things that are processed, sugar, dairy, meat. I go back and forth on it. Depends on what diet plans you're following. I try to eat less meat because I feel like it just personally helps me feel healthier. I'm not a pure vegetarian, but I would like to be closer. I keep saying I'd like to be more vegan. Just keep saying that, Jenna. You'll be slightly more vegan all the time. But yeah, and eggs. So there's a big list of allergens, and if you can cut them all out of your life, I'm like, well, what do I eat for breakfast? It's usually one of the first questions that happens on that. But you can just eat meals for breakfast. You do not have to eat breakfast food for breakfast. So that was definitely a learning curve when I first started doing it. It was like, oh, what do you eat? You just eat whatever you have to eat. So it works out. Yeah, fresh fruit is a good thing I like to eat for breakfast. Now I'm sad. Now I'm on the other side of that, being like, I really like waffles. Yeah, but you should not eat waffles because that's, oh yeah, sugar is one thing to not eat that I have a lot of problems with. And I found out that I am not allergic to gluten, which is like for better and for worse for me, because then I can eat gluten, but gluten has a lot of really bad things in it. And I will say, don't replace gluten in your diet with like gluten-free substitutes. So if you love eating cake and you're like, oh, this is gluten-free cake I could eat, don't eat that. If you as my dad says, if you like it, don't eat it. If you don't like it, eat as much as you want to. And he's probably referring to broccoli with that statement. But I'm a little more liberal with that. So I will say if it is too hard to knock all of these things out of your diet and only eat fruits, vegetables, and I'll say protein, back and forth meat, because they take out all the grains and legumes too when you do some of these diets. Autoimmune protocol is very strict. But if you can't bring yourself to say, hey, I'm not eating not all of that, then what you can do is you can take one thing out of your diet. If you have something going on with you where you wake up and you get your coffee and you you start feeling bad after you have it or something like that, pay attention to your body and listen, and then try removing some of the things you're like, wait a second. After I eat donuts, I don't usually feel too good. So just pay attention to your body and then pick one thing you're like, it could be this, and experiment around with eliminating one thing from your diet. So yeah, one of the other thing that the autoimmune protocol diet can do, it's an elimination diet. So it eliminates all the allergens. And if you start to feel better after being on this diet, which is really what you should do, but if you can't do that, you can try this little alternative. So try that and see what happens. Just experiment around with your body and your diet, and fingers crossed, here's to you. Hopefully you feel better. But the first thing that I needed to know was that something was going on with my body and I needed to change my diet. I had no idea that all these health problems I had were just because of my diet and things I was eating. And now I do know that, and now I'm still having a little bit of a problem with some things, but my life in general and health overall is so much better than it has been. So here's to you and getting better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.